And we're off. Welcome, everybody, to Getting a Grip. I'm calling it Getting a Grip. Have you gotten a grip lately? It's not easy during these crazy times. That's why we're going to talk. Hello, hello. We're talking. We're talking about what's going on. It's Valentine's Day Eve. Well, happy Valentine's Day Eve, everybody. It's sort of like it's one of two date nights because it falls on a Saturday this year. Hi. How you guys doing? I wanted to talk about a few things that feel like assaults on our emotional well-being, because they are. The Pam Blondie situation just keeps being talked about. You know, the other thing that was talked about for several days was the halftime show after the Super Bowl. It seems like it was a long time ago because so much happens in between different events. But there's been a whole lot of talk about Blondie's behavior. Today was your mom's birthday. Happy birthday to your mom. It's an assault on our sensibilities. It's an assault on our sense of decency, what we're bearing witness to. Hey, Thomas, Patty, everybody. And we have to not stand for it. I mean, I was just re-listening to a video with clips of Pam Blondie, and I'm appalled at the way that she was screaming at people who were questioning her. Yeah, so it was over the top. It was beyond what we had ever seen. It was historic, and it left us reeling with, or fuming with rage. So that's what this regime is doing. They're assaulting everything that we might want, which is decorum and decency and respect. This regime is attacking everything that makes us feel good about our country and good about one another. And this country is to a point where we're to a boiling point. We've had quite enough. I'm just reading the chat and I'm noticing Kathy saying that we miss Thomas's dad jokes. Feel free to put a dad joke up. That's what we used to do on my YouTube channel. The other assaults that I want to talk about, well, there's two others, and one is the assault on our well-being in the form of making us feel terrified. A lot of people feel terrified that they're going to be disappeared by ICE. So there's that. And there's also the assault on our right to vote that I talked about yesterday. And by the way, I did mention a book yesterday, A User's Guide to Democracy. I couldn't remember the title at the time, but A User's Guide to Democracy. This is great. We all need to be studying this. I think this book was featured on PBS, pretty sure. This is our country, everybody. This is our country. It's not theirs. How America Works, Nick Capotis and Hannah McCarthy, the hosts of NHPR's Civics 101. So this is worth getting. Yeah, I'm getting there, Michelle. That was my third thing to talk about. Hang on, it takes me a while to absorb everything that we need to talk about and to lay it out in some kind of order. This is the other book that I was mentioning to you, People of the Lie. Somebody let me know that Scott Peck had passed away. I'm not sure when, probably kind of recently. And this is a book that describes what evil is and that it's real. Michelle, you're funny. And we are in serious times, and I understand that Thomas is saying that it feels like we're in too serious times to tell dad jokes, but we'll get back to the lighthearted times too. So the assault on our voting. Okay, so I'm just going to clarify what the SAVE Act is. We're so fortunate to have pro-democracy channels. I got this information from Midas Touch. Let's count our blessings. We have pro-democracy channels. This is our country, and we have a right to speak. And that means speak to one another. The SAVE Act it needs to pass in the Senate if it's going to go into effect. Now, as I'm reading what the SAVE Act involves, I want you to think about the MAGA Republicans in Congress who are wanting this for their constituents. Jean Dixon predicted this time that we're in. Yeah, she was a very famous psychic. It was really interesting. She was around a long time ago. I'll look that up. So think about your representatives that are of the MAGA Republican ilk, and think about why would they do this to you? Why would they assault you? Why would they attack your right to vote? Why would they make it so difficult to vote? And the fact of the matter is, they don't want us to vote. They're not interested in us being able to vote. They want to put us through holy hell, and they are. Have you noticed? They're putting us through holy hell. Federalized national elections, which is against the Constitution. States run elections. It's always been that way. It's the first step towards, that would be the first step towards federalizing elections, is to have the states no longer in charge of elections. Kathy's asking what Jean Dixon said. You can tune into my show later, I'll tell you. So we don't want that. We want our own states that we're in to run the elections. Ask yourself again, why would the MAGA Republicans want to do something that's not going to benefit the country? I won't say a bad word because they're fill in the blanks. The SAVE Act would end all mail-in ballots. Think about all the people overseas, including our military. The SAVE Act would end mail-in and absentee ballots. Think about the people that maybe are in nursing homes or in the hospital and they can't get out. Right? I'll let you know my predictions. Don't worry. That's a different show. If we end all mail-in and absentee ballots, that is a big chunk. Big chunk. Some states only have mail-in, I think. Am I right about that? No more mail-in and absentee ballots, okay? Everyone must, with the SAVE Act, every single one of us would have to go re-register to vote. They're punishing us for wanting democracy to continue. We must, if the SAVE Act passes, it's got a few more steps to go. Not only would everyone have to pre-register or re-register to vote. Who knows how long that would take, right? We'd have to present our birth certificate. I know a lot of people don't have their birth certificates. Maybe it's way down in the bottom of a trunk somewhere in the attic, right? Everyone must present their birth certificate or a passport in order to vote. The passport has to have your real legal name. So as far as women that took their husband's name when they were married, they won't be able to have their real legal name unless they have the birth certificate probably and a passport. I'm not sure exactly. This will not pass. There are too many homebound. But you have to understand, Thomas, they're trying to take away voting. Like they do in Russia. They have elections that are a joke because they're rigged. Oh, okay. So not only do you have to have a birth certificate, you must have a passport. And I've heard, like, I don't currently have an up-to-date passport. Mine's expired. I heard that everyone must have a passport according to the SAVE Act in order to vote. And I heard about only 50% of the population has an active passport, like an up-to-date passport. So, how does it feel to have our rights almost all taken away? The way that I look at this time that we're in is I feel like fascism came to visit, and it's up to us what we decide to do with it. Other countries have had their run in. Other countries haven't fared so well. And so here we are. And right now, there are plans in place to build massive concentration camps. There are thousands of people in these detention camps, whatever you want to call them, right now, including children. We talked about this yesterday. And this needs to be top of the list. I know there's so much going on that it's hard to figure out what needs to be top of the list. Flood the zone with bullshit, said Steve Bannon, right? That's what this is. The chaos, the overwhelm, the freak out all the time, so you want to turn away from the news, that's all by design. They have instituted Project 2025 as much as they have been able to institute, they have. It's up to us to shut this shit down. So what I want to say is that, and I said this yesterday, but some things need to be repeated. We've got to call our representatives every single day and say, we need you, I need you to spearhead shutting down these detention centers and making sure that none get built. Yeah, they're trying to break us. That's what they do. That's what this is about. They found out that we don't break easily. They found out that we are made of not whipped cream. We're made of steel. Don't forget that. So lo and behold, yesterday we find out that they're going to deny the science because they hate science. Because science gives data and facts. And then we make wise, informed decisions and choices about what will happen in our societies based on the idea that we all want what's best for ourselves and one another. They have decided, and I say they, it's like, who are these horrible, evil people? Well, there's a whole lot of them. That they decided that climate change is a hoax. How many devastating storms have we had? If you live in Florida, how many devastating hurricanes have you had? If you live in the islands, how many devastating storms have you had? This winter's been kind of brutal, and the weather has been kind of like freaky, right? For a while there, we were having no winter. Now we have real winter. It's like, it's been crazy. So what they've decided to do is just gut all that science, right? They like to gut science. That's why we're having measles outbreaks everywhere. And I heard they're starting in the concentration camps, outbreaks of disease. We'll get back to that topic in a second. How do we feel about a regime that decides that they don't give a rat's ass about whether people get sick from asthma or whether the entire planet burns up? Because the United States of America, which is the country with, I think we have the largest emissions, however you measure that, we have the greatest number when it comes to the level of global climate warming, things that are spewing into the air from burning fossil fuels. And did we hear that Trump got an award for being like King Coal? I'm not kidding. It's hilarious, but I'm not kidding. Yeah, he did. How do we feel about regulations being stripped away from oil and gas and coal burning companies? No regulations. No standards on cars. We have reached a breaking point. I think we're here. We've reached a breaking point. And maybe there's a reason that it's piling up every day. It's piling up. The offenses, the assaults, the shock and horror. How could they? This is unbelievable. It's piling up. Maybe it's the piling up that makes us dug in. Maybe it's the piling up of all these horrible crimes, including what I read an article today, what we might call, let me read a little something to you about this. The genocide that's happening in this country. I'll get back to that in a minute too. What gives these few evil people, few in relation to how huge the world is, 8 billion plus people on the planet, what gives these people the right? It's because we gave it to them in a certain way. By not paying attention to our democracy, it's not totally our fault. To decide what happens to the planet, to decide whether we on planet Earth get to survive. What gives them the right? The only reason they have this right is because we neglected our democracy, right? That really is. And now that it's to the point that they want to make the planet not livable, now that it's to that point, there's not one person among us that doesn't feel like they have to do something. And that's where we need to be. Yeah. That's where we need to be. We need to be in a place where, okay, if we're not going to be able to breathe, because if you've been to a third world country that doesn't have an EPA and doesn't have regulations, I was in India at one point in my life, and I remember at Mumbai, flying into Mumbai, and I remember when the airplane was still in the air, we're getting ready to land, you could smell Mumbai from the airplane. And it was hard to really get a breath of fresh air because there's no regulations. So they want us to have that. Going back to, and they want us to not vote and all that. I just want to roll that. But going back to, I'm starting to see some articles and some channels that are getting to the point of we're not going to take this anymore. I do see that. So I will show you. There's an article that's entitled, "Is the Trump Regime Committing Genocide?" And there's a case for this. And let me just tell you who wrote this. I'm going to spell his name. It's Qasim. Qasim, maybe? Qasim. And Rashid, Rashid. And I guess his Substack is called Let's Address This. So the definition, I'm just going to read you the definition of genocide. Article 2 of the Genocide Convention defines genocide as certain enumerated acts committed with the intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group, such as killing members of the group, check, causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group, check. Immigrants. Deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part, destruction of the group conditions. Imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group. Yep. Think of the Holocaust. Forcibly transferring children of the group to another group. The question before us is whether current federal immigration enforcement practices taken together satisfy elements of this framework for genocide. So you might want to look up this article, but this is a really important part of this article. In which he says, I approach the term genocide with caution and precision. It is not a rhetorical device, nor is it a word to be deployed for shock value. It is a term defined in binding international law under the 1948 Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide, to which the United States is a signatory. That's key, because we pulled out of the Geneva Convention. The convention establishes both substantive prohibitions and affirmative obligations when credible evidence suggests that conduct may fall within its scope. Legal professionals have a duty to examine it carefully rather than dismiss it reflexively. So the name of the Substack article is Let's Address This. If they build more concentration camps, they're going to start trying to meet their quotas, which they're shy of right now. If they build these concentration camps, we'll just say, we're not going to put too much energy into the fear of them building them. They are planning to build them. They would need, in order to justify the expense of building them, and in order for the prison companies to make it worth their while in their investment of money, they would need to fill them. Think Stephen Miller needing to meet the quota, needing for ICE and DHS to meet the quota of, I think it's over 3,000 people that they round up and bring to these detention facilities / concentration camps in order to make it profitable. Are you with me? In order to make it profitable. So we all need to do our homework. We do. We all need to do our homework. If you want to ask why the ICC is not getting involved, then we're going to have to look it up. Yeah, we don't belong to the ICC, but as far as the details around that, I know that happened during the George W. era, because they wanted to get away with the crimes that they were committing. Remember? Torture and Guantanamo, remember that? This regime is one that is hell-bent on destroying us. When we decide that we want to work together, we will work together, and we are working together, and together there's nothing that we cannot do. I think that we have reason to be cautiously optimistic. I think that we are seeing MAGA turn on Trump, and actually I was listening to Stephen Hassan today, the author of The Cult of Trump and Combating Cult Mind Control, and everyone needs to read this material. And he mentioned, and I think that I like this, and I think I'm going to start doing it. The Trump family name is not actually Trump. It's Drumpf. It's true. I think it's Drumpf. I have to look it up. Maybe you guys can look it up. And he said he's going to start referring to him by that name. And so am I, once I figure out how to pronounce it properly. It is up to us. I know that this is an opportunity for us to show one another what we're made of that maybe we never knew. So it's Drumpf. So it's Drumpf. Drumpf. It kind of fits better. And I don't know if you can get the translation, but I think I had looked it up before and it was not complimentary, which is why they changed it. The rest of the world is with us. I think we really have to pay attention to that. The rest of the world is on our side, just like, there's Alexei Navalny behind me. Just like the Russian people, they're victims of this horror show, right? They're being kept in the dark. They don't have any independent media. They really have nothing. They have Russian TV. But we have each other. And we can do this. So right now, I know that we're being represented by Democrats. What is it that's going on right now? There's a big international convention. I lost track of what it is. And the Democrats are showing up to represent the United States of America. And we need it. So hats off to Gavin Newsom. He's doing what needs to be done. We need different representation. And when we move into different representation, then that will be more truth than what we're seeing, the shit show we're seeing go on right over here. The rest of the world has demonstrated that they're with us. I mentioned before, I don't know if it was on the Substack, that after Renee Good was executed, they were having a vigil in Berlin. And then Alex Preddy was executed. And I don't know, they probably had a vigil then too. I just happened to catch that with Renee. So, AOC is there as well. Yeah, I didn't know who went, but where is it, in Switzerland? Yes. Yeah, and you weren't aware of that meeting. That's kind of why we get together, so we can kind of share what we know. I think it's really important that we focus on the good people. Mark Kelly and Alyssa Slotkin were speaking up about what this regime tried to do to them for simply making a commercial in which they read the military constitution, or the code of law, where soldiers weren't required to, well, actually they were advised to not obey illegal orders. It's in Munich. Okay, thank you. Yeah, what is the event? What's the convention? Just as a side note, I have been really good at following the news all day, every day, because of my YouTube channel and now this channel. But I definitely have noticed recently that there's an overwhelm that sets in, where there's so many huge stories. You kind of don't know which one to follow first, because they're all huge and they're all horrifying. We're being tested. Yeah. It's a battle of truth versus lies. We're on the side of truth. We need to stand in our truths. And now we're really at a critical point right now, for many reasons, but top of the list, like I was saying, we have to stop these concentration camps from being built. And I'm glad that the event, it's a Munich security conference. That's beautiful. I'm glad it's being held there. I have been thinking about reaching out to our friends in Germany. Like, how do we do that? How do we reach out to our friends in Germany? They have a huge Holocaust museum there. And they're really adamant about not going down the road to fascism. We're never doing that again. This is a never again. And here we are at the precipice, right? And it's greed, 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 and it's evil, evil, evil. But they know about it. And they know the warning signs. And I think that it's probably going to be very pivotal what happens there in terms of how much the Americans that are going there are learning. Yeah, AOC is really showing her chops. So we have some great talent in the Democratic Party in our representation What we're in right now doesn't really have anything to do with partisanship. The MAGA Republicans in Congress are continuing to treat it that way. You saw the meme of Blondie like she's possessed. Yeah, did you see that? Yeah. It's unbelievable how bad it is, but we can use that to our advantage. We don't really have to talk people into how bad Drumpf is. I think I said it right. We don't have to talk people into it. Now it's obvious to everybody. We need to save the people of our country. We need to save the planet. We need to progress. There's so much that's not being done. We need progress, not de-evolution. And don't forget, yeah, search for non-US based search engines. That's a good idea. Don't forget that we are evolving. Don't forget that. Look at the progress and look at the fact, and this is factual, that what we need is Democrats in charge to save humanity. I think with the Epstein files and all the drama and trauma around that, I think that makes what America is in an international situation. And that can be extremely helpful on all fronts. So let's know we're never alone. Together we are America. We're never alone. We have each other. And leading up to what we're in right now, we have been forming organizations and groups. There are countless organizations that are supporting democracy. Countless. There's so many of us. Hang with the ones that are giving you an optimistic view of things. Hang out with the pro-democracy channels or whatever your sources are that give you that little shot in the arm, like, yeah, we can do this. Don't bother with the channels and the articles. This is just what I find is helpful. Don't bother with the ones that go, oh, let's be worried about that. No, let's not. This is a time for courage, as I was saying before. So, call your representatives, tell them to stop this SAVE Act. It's maliciously named. It's not saving anything, it's destroying us. But top of the list, once again, class, top of the list, shut down all plans for concentration camps to be built. I have heard that some of them have been stopped. We need to keep going with that. And release these innocent people. And guess what? Even if they weren't innocent, even if they had committed crimes, they would get due process in our democracy. This is not going to last. We're not going to let it. All right. Well, it was nice to visit with you. I will do a video in a little while to upload to my YouTube channel, and I hope to see you there. Know that it's going to get better because we're all doing this. And the No Kings rally is March 28th. You're not alone. All right. I'd like to say namaste. Have a great evening. See you tomorrow.